This isn't just a podcast, it's a reckoning, a calling, a return to what's real, to what's right, to what's yours. Because somewhere along the way, leadership became a game of sacrifice, success became a cage, and legacy, something you leave behind instead of something you live right now. The modern culture is here to change that. This is where old rules crumble and something truer, deeper, and far more powerful takes their place. Where leadership is about presence, where success is aligned, and where legacy lives in every moment you choose to lead differently. Co-hosted by Cari and Leah Rolling, this is the space where fire meets flow, where strategy bows to wisdom, and where disruption isn't feared, it's embraced. If you're ready to build without burnout, to create without compromise, to lead in a way that feels like you, welcome to the modern culture.
Welcome back, friends. Welcome to the modern culture. We dismantle outdated narratives. That's what we do here. And we like to rebuild leadership from the inside out. This is a season of principles. What we believe so far has been a transformative journey through each of the 10 core principles that shape how we lead and how we love and how we live. And each week we're taking you deeper into the blueprint of the modern culture, principle by principle. So if you've missed any of the ones before, we invite you to go back and give them a listen. Not that they're required to understand, but to deepen your level of awareness in them might be beneficial. But today it's all about principle 5, aligned empowerment. If you've been with us from the start, you know that kind of the episodes do build from the last. We've talked about radical ownership. We've talked about confidence. And in this episode, we are going beyond the buzzword of alignment and the buzzword of empowerment. Because if you have to fight for empowerment, if you have to feel like you have to prove your worth, or if you have to ask for permission, it's not empowerment, my friends. It's performance. And so we're breaking down the traditional leadership systems that create pressure to act powerful rather than just to be and to embody power, right? And so that is how we're going to bring in this conversation of aligned empowerment today. So welcome. Let's get it.
That you say, like, I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, okay, aligned empowerment. And we know, like, we understand the context of what we're bringing into this, but I was like, how do we break them beyond the hashtag?
Yes.
Right? Because aligned and empowerment have become such words that just get thrown around from a marketing perspective. And people have really wrapped themselves in, what does it mean to be aligned? And what does it mean to be empowered? And I love that you said, if you're having to perform, you're not empowered, right? If you're having to overfunction, you're not empowered. And so it's like breaking it all down and ripping away all of the layers of it, because what we've done is we've taken the aligned and the empowerment as a hashtag, and we've created burnout, right? We've created burnout that is wrapped in the language of being unstoppable.
Right. Yes.
Let's stop. So that being said, then, Leah, what the heck is, like, for us, stripping away the hashtag, what is aligned empowerment?
Well, if we strip away the hashtag, what it is it's rooted in that internal authority that isn't in proving your worth, but declaring it, right? It comes from knowing who you are. And we say this all the time. When you know who you are, you know what to do. There's clarity in that sense of self-knowing, right? You also know what you value. You also get to lead from that truth, no matter the room, no matter the role, no matter the resistance, no matter what anyone brings forward to you, because you know that your worth is not debatable, right? So I believe that if you continue to strip off alignment and empowerment, it is the magnetic power, and you know what I mean by when I say magnetic, right? They just have this sense of confidence that's magnetic, that doesn't seem egotistical, but it's just them being them. And you get it, and you know that they aren't there to posture anything, to prove anything, to perform anything. You don't feel manipulated. You don't feel like you just feel their presence. That's what I'll say, right? Yeah. And because of that presence that they're bringing, you feel seen. So it's built on ownership, extreme ownership, radical honesty, clarity, and core alignment. And when we talk about alignment, it's in truth with your head and your heart. When they're congruent, when there's not this tug of war between what is outside of you wants and what is inside of you wants. That's what I would say.
Yeah. I love how you mentioned that, like when somebody walks into a room, I remember the very first time I saw somebody like that. Like, and it's crazy because I know his name. I know the company that he worked for. I remember the room he walked in, because in that moment I thought, oh my God, that guy just walked into this room in a presence of confidence without doing anything. Like that kind of energy that you were like, wow. I mean, he didn't do anything. He didn't prove anything. It's almost like he commanded respect without commanding respect. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes.
It's not proving, and it's not a commanding in an ego way. It is just the energy that he brought into it. And I will forever remember that thing about that guy, right? Yeah. Like the way he walked into a room. And I know that's the way that we effort to walk into a room. But when we think about that, we think, okay, so if that's aligned empowerment, what the heck is it not?
Well, I think it's that loud performative leadership where they have to be the center of attention. Like you said, he said nothing.
He said nothing.
He said nothing. It was just in the energy of his presence that commanded attention. He didn't command attention.
No.
Right? So it's not seeking validation or waiting for permission to act. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not manipulating, it's not controlling, and you feel it when you're being manipulated. You can't, a lot of times we don't put our fingers on it, because something just didn't feel right. It just felt off, right? They are powerful without being overpowering, right? Again, to your, it's just in their essence.
It's just in their essence. And what's amazing about this is this guy, I watched him walk into the conference room, into this like big conference auditorium type room in this organization. He had the same energy walking in Target. I literally saw him in Target like 2 months later. So it's like you said, there's no words. Nothing needs to be spoken. There is no demand, or I'm standing at the front going, hey,
listen to me.
Me.
Don't you see me?
So I love that, because it's just the energy, and it's the energy you carry no matter where you go.
That's right.
So,
and
no, go tell me.
I was just going to say, and there's like, I don't know if we can belabor this enough. It's not in anything that you have to do. Nothing. It's just understanding your own worth and showing up as you.
Yes. That's it.
That's it's so simple, and yet we've not been conditioned to believe that that's all that is possible. That is
possible.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That it's even possible.
Yeah.
Right?
That it's even possible.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So prove it. Give us the science behind it.
We talk about science. Let's go. So like in all the other principles, because principles can seem very philosophical. They can kind of seem pie in the sky. Oh, that's kind of nice. it's kind of a nice principle to like have on a bumper sticker or as a bookmark.
Hashtag, yeah.
But hashtag, but we want to bring the science in because these principles are so important in the way that we live and love and lead and the way that we develop our character, right? So as we have in all the other principles, we talk about the neurological science, we talk about the organizational science, and we talk about the psychological science. So a real quick rundown on all of this for my fellow science nerds. Yes. And those aspiring science maniacs. Yes. So neurologically aligned empowerment is tied directly to self-agency. The brain's ability to initiate, I'll call it aligned action, but not to be redundant, but aligned action, which meaning you're taking action from a head and heart congruency. We're not just scattered all over the place because our head is in chaos, or we're not just doing it because our heart tells us to do it. There is a congruence. There's a reason why we have both a brain and a heart. Okay, so it's from that internal clarity rather than any sort of external pressure. Okay, the external pressure is going to come from your subconscious, unconscious mind. The aligned empowerment activates what we call the prefrontal cortex, and that is the one that strengthens all of our decision making, and it helps us with emotional regulation and confidence and all of the things that you can think about as it relates to confidence, right? Psychologically, self-determination, right? When you do not place your worth on anything outside of you, you have a different level of determination that's innate, okay? People thrive, and the research shows that people thrive when they experience, one, that self-agency from the neurological, but when they experience autonomy and competence and meaningful connection, okay? And again, when we lead from alignment, we access that intrinsic motivation as opposed to some sort of external pressure. And then organizationally, all the research on what we're going to say is authentic leadership here confirms that leaders who act from this level of self-awareness and lead with their core values build stronger trust. They foster innovation within their teams. They foster more collaboration. They elevate like the collective performance as opposed to disconnection and burnout, which we talk all of the time on this podcast about. So that is the science. This isn't just me and Cari having nice pie in the sky type of conversations. It's all activated with self-agency, self-regulation, self-determination, and it's all based on scientific theory. So what then, Cari, are the warning signs? Like what? So this all sounds great, you guys, but what do I need to look for? What are the warning signs that might indicate that either myself or who I'm in leadership with are not embodying this principle?
Well, you've said a few of them, and we've talked about a few of them. There's the overfunctioning. And we tend to overfunction because we believe that's what leadership is, which is crazy. We are performing as though we have clarity, but we are really suffocating underneath the pressure. And give me a leader right now who doesn't feel that element of like, I am doing everything and I feel like I'm suffocating and nobody has any idea. And I'm showing up as the leader. Right? You say yes to everything. You say yes to everything because one, you feel like it's your job. It's your job to do that. And you feel like that's what commitment is. I'm committed to this, so I'm going to say yes to all of it. And you tend to build your identity around the one who has their hands in everything. You just do. And that's when we start to confuse what empowerment truly is. We believe that empowerment is something that we build based on the things that we do.
Yes.
And that's not it. The more that you build this empowerment based on the things you do, the more you are actually denying yourself power.
Yeah.
And then you're just surviving. So it's what it's going to do is it's going to give you this kind of illusion of control, and you're going to cling to it because that's what's going to feel like the strategy. Okay, the control is the strategy, because I spent quite a bit of time this morning looking at assumptions, and we do it because of assumptions. And quite honestly, assumptions are only there to steal opportunity. Assumptions are what pull you out of alignment. Assumptions are really sitting to validate the emotion that sits within you in order to recognize the ego that feels like it's being denied. That's what's happening. And so the assumptions that keep all of this in place, I'm the only one who can do it. If I stop, it's all going to fall apart. Nobody else can do it like I can. Nobody else can do it right. So I'm just going to be the one. And these aren't truths. This is coping mechanism. This is the fear, right? And some would say that assumptions are human nature. Assumptions are just a tendency like fear. Do you want to sit in fear? Do we want to sit in assumptions? Or are we going to finally call ourselves back into that aligned empowerment?
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so good. And not like this is a principle for just this time in the world, but why is it more than ever important to recognize where we're leading with this false illusion of control, where we are making assumptions that really restrict us, like you said, from the opportunities, deny us that level of conscious leadership to protect our ego. Why is this year, especially for leaders, and this principle so important for us to recognize and step into?
Because we're on the precipice of change. That's why we're on the precipice of change. And unfortunately, as we said right back in the beginning, empowerment has been hijacked. It just has. And it's been turned into this productivity tool. And all it's doing is it's amplifying that old hustle culture, because that hustle culture doesn't want to be let go of. It just is like that performance that we do in order to receive the applause, right? And then we burn out behind the scenes. We're completely exhausted, and we spend our weekends completely camped out trying to recoup from the week, only to show up on Monday and do it again. We don't need more empowered women. We don't need more empowered leaders. We need people who remember that they have power.
Yes.
Never came from outside of themselves. It never came from a title. It didn't come from the applause. It didn't come from how other people see you. It literally is something that is innate to you. And it's not asking you to do more, people. It's not. Aligned empowerment is not asking you to do more. It's asking you to stop abandoning yourself to meet the expectations that were never yours. Expectations that were placed on you are based on somebody else's observation and expectation of themselves. You just picked it up as your own. That's why it's important.
Yes. Yes. So good. Yeah. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So with all of that then, how do we, and I might just be missing a question here, love. How do we pull this into a practice, Leah? How do we pull this into something that is tangible? Because we can talk all day about empowerment and not over functioning and not overproducing, but I tell you what the leaders are going to say. Okay, but if I don't do it, who's going to do it? What do we say to that? I mean, I think if we're going to spend any time here, it's really giving them some tools, some ideas, some thoughts on how do you come back into that alignment of self, releasing that need for power, that need for having to do in order to prove.
So it would be an alignment practice is what I will just say.
Okay.
Right. And so again, it's not a hashtag, it's not a philosophy. It is a practice. And I know that you have your own different alignment practice, as do I, and it doesn't matter what the practice is, right? It just matters that you have one, right? And all that it entails is you coming back home to you. And I know that can sound woo-woo because we have forgotten ourselves a lot of times. right? We've made everybody else's needs more important than ours. And we have become the rescuer and the hero and the pleaser and the perfecter and the controller and the performer and all of those labels to certain success. And the invitation home is the alignment audit. And that basically just asks just a couple of questions. And you asked it at our event the other night, or the other weekend ago, is how are you really feeling? Like we ask that in lip service a lot to a lot of people, lip service or not. How many times have you asked yourself that, even in lip service? We don't even spend the 2 seconds to ask ourselves how we are. And if we do ever, it's mainly by way of just repeating fine to somebody else that has just asked us that. We rarely even check in to be like, wait a second here, how am I really?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's coming back in and it's going, how am I? What is it that I am feeling? And aligning yourself with that feeling, regardless of what it is.
I was going to add something in here,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, because I love where you're going with this, but only because I had a conversation this morning. Let me just say that I had a conversation this morning and I said, how are you doing? So I want people to, I think, and we talk about this a lot, Leah, we don't navigate how we're doing because we can't cope with the emotions that we're having. Okay.
Yeah.
So we tend to disassociate ourselves out of it.
Yeah.
And so my challenge, just in what you're saying here, my challenge in this is in that question of how are you doing? What I got this morning was everything that I am doing.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean how I'm doing here? So went through the whole list and I said, that's interesting because that's what you're doing. That's not how you're doing or how you're feeling in it. That's the question that I'm asking.
Yes.
So I just bring that forward because I love that you were saying that. And it just triggered this, like, I just had that conversation. You want know what leaders do? How are you doing? Boop, boop. Here's my list of activities.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's why the question is,
yes.
no, that's why the question is, how are you feeling? I didn't ask how you're doing. Right?
See, don't you love that?
I asked, girl, how are you feeling? How are you feeling really? Right? Not how are you doing really, or what are you doing really, but how are you feeling? Right? And if we're honest with that feeling, that's the only back into alignment, by the way. You can't be lying to yourself and in alignment with yourself. Right? And I love what you said about being empowered. We just need to remember our power. That's what empowerment is.
Yes.
Right? Which is when I wanted to bring that full circle, because I want you to gather that and maybe write that down. It's not anything you have to get or go do. It's something you have to remember to stand into, because you already have it. It's already yours.
Love it.
And then you don't reject anything. When you ask yourself, how are you feeling? You allow for your humanness to share with you, I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling annoyed. I'm feeling excited. I'm feeling grateful. Whatever it is. We don't have to outrun it, right? We just have to come back into alignment with it. It has something to say. Your emotions have a voice. We just don't listen to it, and we don't recognize the language of it because we're too busy finding it away or discounting it, as if we shouldn't have feelings. But it has a voice. What is it trying to get you to hear? Your feelings have a story to share with you. They will open the door for you. They have the key to unlock that door, but we don't pay any attention to it. So that is the audit. The audit is, it doesn't have to be Cari's practice or Leah's practice. It has to be your practice. Sit with yourself, give yourself 2 minutes, a couple of times a day, and check in. How am I feeling? Not what have I done? Not what can I check off? Not how am I doing? How am I feeling? And be honest and ask, if this feeling could talk, what would it want me to know?
Yeah.
Not what would it want me to do? What would it want me to know?
And I love that. I mean, and I just want to I want to continuously double down on that, the difference between feeling and doing.
Yes.
The difference between feeling and doing, because it is significant here. It is significant. I mean, it's when I went back into kind of that assumption piece, right? Assumptions are simply there to validate the emotions for a recognition of an ego that feels like it's been denied. Right? So it really does come down to, and we say that consistently, everything is going to come down to the emotion that you're having, the emotion. So when you're asked the question of how are you feeling? How are you doing? It's not an activity-based question, right? It is not a how are you on your spreadsheet? How are the things coming along? Where are you at in your project? Oh, well, this is where I'm at. We had this conversation. This is where I'm at. Okay, so if it was due today and you didn't get it done, why didn't you get it done? I'm going to give you a reason and I'm just going to push it out. Ask the deeper question underneath that. Because I guarantee you there's probably an emotion, there's probably something that's getting stuck that's allowing that to continuously be pushed out. But because we constantly go to the do and we don't go to the feel, or we don't try to dive underneath to figure out what exactly is going on there, then we don't come back into that empowerment, in that alignment. And again, it's like you said, that alignment is simply that holding of truth in the knowing of my own power. Empowerment is the remembering of power and not the requirement of something in order to build that power for me. And I love that, Leah. I love that exercise. I think it's powerful. So what do we want to leave them with this week?
I think I would just leave them with, when you can come back in to alignment, that is your strategy. No strategy, no system in your business will outperform alignment. If you're misaligned and you try to execute on a strategy or a solution, that will create more misalignment.
Yes.
Right? But people don't start with alignment. They start with the doing. Let's just do the system. Let's do the strategy. Let's implement this. Let's implement this. And then they are like bewildered as to why it is. They were just creating more of the same chaos because you didn't have that alignment piece. Alignment is the start. That's where we start.
Yes.
Everything else, that is the domino. Everything else falls after that. Either way, you're either in alignment and you create more alignment, or you're misaligned and you just create more chaos.
Yes.
That is what that is the importance of this work. This is it. That's the importance of this principle. And that's what I would leave you with. If you are pounding your head because you have all these solutions and all these strategies and all these systems and none of them seem to be working, it's because you're not working.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about working by doing.
No.
I'm talking about working as coming into alignment with your own knowing, your own truth.
Yes. 1,000%.
Then you execute on them.
And here's the very last thing that I will say is that alignment is going to cost you. It is going to cost you, but it's going to cost you the have to continuously overperform. It is going to cost you the busyness, but it is going to bring you back into clarity. So that cost, that price you're going to pay is just simple presence. Period. And I tell you what, I'll pay presence all day long. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much.
Have a beautiful one, everybody. See you next week.
Bye.
You have been listening to The Modern Culture, co-hosted by Leah Rowling and Carrie Kenzie. This is the space where fire meets flow, where strategy bows to wisdom, and where disruption isn't feared, it's embraced. Tune in every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Transformation Network, because this isn't just a podcast. It's a reckoning, a calling, a return.